Alright, what's up, baby Macrobita? This is just a practice vid. That's why it's going to be so sloppy. I'm just going to try to... I need to submit something before Wednesday because that's what is required. But I know I'm able to... Or at least I hope I'm able to maybe resubmit a video resubmit a video or edit this video and add to it because I'm not 100% sure of the content. And I just need to get it more secured in my brain and understand it more before I actually submit something for a grade. And not that I want to understand it too because that's why I took economics, so I could learn about it because I wanted to know. So let's get into it. Fiscal policy, that's what we're going over, to save or not to save. So what is fiscal policy? It's enacted by Congress. There's expansionary and contractionary. Expansionary is when the government is going to increase government spending or lower taxes, and contractionary is vice versa. They're going to raise taxes or lower government spending, which they'll never do because that'll be a direct loss in jobs, and no one's going to vote for a congressman or woman who does that. Pretty simple. So, or at least that part's pretty simple. Now, what is the multiplier, and how does it affect from taxes or spending or government spending? And this part is supposed to be the hard part of the topic, easiest part of the unit for me because it's just math, and I'm good at math. So, the multiplier is affected by the propensity to consume or the marginal propensity to save, marginal propensity to consume. And we do this from the reciprocal of the marginal propensity to save. What does that even mean? Because I didn't go over that. Well, that means how much of a dollar Americans are going to save, and this is assumed because we can never know, and it's never uniform of how much people are going to save. But let's say, in this case, the marginal propensity to consume is 0.8. We're in a recessionary gap deficit of $60 billion. How much does the government need to spend to get us out of this gap? Simple, right? Yeah, it is simple once I explain. So, the monetary propensity to save is going to be 0.2 in this scenario. The reciprocal of 20% or 0.2 is 5. 60 billion, which is the deficit gap, divided by 5 is 12 billion. So that means a multiplying effect needs to be, or we need to spend $12 billion with the multiplier effect to get us out of here. And that's all the multiplier is. It's that simple. Another scenario. The government is spending $50 billion and the marginal propensity to save is 0.5. The reciprocal of 0.5 is 2. How big is the gap? $100 billion. 50 billion times 2. Simple. Simple, simple, simple. So how does this differ from government spending versus taxes? Well, taxes are one less of a multiplying factor than government spending. And this is because when taxes are enacted, people are saving their money and they're not going to just go out and spend as much of it as if the government was handing you an extra $200. You're probably going to spend that $200 rather than if you're saving $200 on taxes, you're probably going to keep saving that and put it in to a bank or something or to get interest on it, right? So that means that in the scenario of the multiplying factor of 5, if it were enacted because we're lowering taxes, the government would actually need to spend 60 billion divided by 4, it would need to spend $15 billion, and that's that. So, explain the demand shifters for loanable funds, explain and draw the market for loanable funds, explain the supply shifter for loanable funds, explain how fiscal policy affects the loanable funds market, and explain and draw how fiscal policy affects the market for money. Define crowding out. So let's go over that right now. So, as you can see, I've drawn a lot, I've messed up a lot. Long story short, you have spending, saving, and you have investing for demand, spending, saving for supply. You have real interest rate, you have loanable funds. Spending shifts supply to the left, saving shifts supply to the right, okay? So which one of these is contractionary, which one of these is expansionary? I believe since government spending increasing, I believe is expansionary when the government spends money. And why does this happen? Well, let's look at the money market. So from what I can conduct is when the real interest rate increases and loanable funds decrease, that means that there's going to be more money in the market since people aren't going to be putting this into banks or anything since the interest rates are going to take away from what they're trying to get or invest in. So that means there's going to be that means there's going to be a lower nominal interest rate and greater money in the market. And this is just what I think. I'll ask in class, or you can comment on my video when I submit it. So when there's an increase of money in the market and we're in this recessionary gap, we know what's going to happen, right? There's more money in the market, everything's going to shift back because we're able to spend more and we're going to get out of this recessionary gap. And vice versa. Now what happens when the government is saving? And they're saving from the use of taxes, right? So when they increase these taxes, people are going to start saving more. That is what the savings is, I think. Once again, I think. I'm not 100% sure, which is why I'll ask in class. But so when the saving happens in the loanable funds market, the real interest rate drops, loanable funds increase, right? And when this happens, but this should be contractionary, yes? Right. So that happens, right? We're in this contractionary, we're saving. There's less money in the market because there's lower interest rates, people are investing this, they're doing, or not investing because that's what the demand is, but they're putting this money elsewhere, they're saving it, right? And that means that there's going to be higher nominal interest rates, and there's going to be less money in the market overall because people are saving it, they're not going out and spending it. As we know from, or as I know from the money market, if we're over here, that's fixing an inflationary gap. Simple as that. So imagine everything reversed. We're here to here. All because there's less money in the market, there's less cash flow, and we're closing this inflationary gap. People are saving. So, geez. What is the demand? Demand is investment. So, when there's an increase in investment as in like, this is another part that I'm confusing. Investment as in investing in stock and capital. So not in a company because that is considered saving. I remember I asked, but in like banks and in funds even is what it is. So when if there's an increase in investing because someone saw people are seeing great business opportunities, for example, it's going to either shift to the right, or it can either shift to the left if people aren't investing as much. So what happens here, I mean, it looks to me, and not 100% sure again, but just from looking at graphs and graphing, there's a high real interest rate and there's a increase in loanable funds in the market. Well, I think that is going to also shift to the left because more loanable funds and a higher interest rate means there's going to be less money in the market. So yes, I think that does shift to the left. That fixes an inflationary gap when there's more investments because people are waiting to reap the reward. And opposite, if there's less investing going on, loanable funds, lower real interest rate. When there's less loanable funds and a lower real interest rate, I think it means that there's going to be more money in the market in that sense and a lower nominal interest rate. And once again, I'm not really sure on the demand part at all. I'm more confident in the supply part, but that's pretty much the best I can give you, and that'll shift a recessionary gap back to correction. And the last thing is crowding out. So what is crowding out? Crowding out is where the monetary and the Federal Reserve pretty much work together to push everyone out of the loanable funds market and the bonds. So what that means is a monetary policy pretty much will come in and they will make the nominal interest rate extremely low, right? So they're going to shift. My video just cut off for some reason. So where I was is they're going to shift the supply to the left, which as we know is a contractionary policy. So let's just keep it simple and say they are selling bonds, okay? They're selling bonds. So now that the nominal interest rate is high, the government's going to take opportunity, this Congress is, and they're going to buy these bonds. And when they're buying these bonds, that's government spending, right? Spending shifts to the left. Now real interest rates. So in essence, they're getting these bonds at originally a low interest rate, but the more bonds they buy, it causes the interest rate to raise and get higher, and that pretty much prevents anybody else in the market from getting these bonds that they might need. And the monetary and federal policy, monetary and fiscal policy is supposed to work like this together in order for the government to have bonds in which they could use to get us out of recessionary gaps pretty much, because we don't want to be in recessionary gaps ever for the most part. And that's pretty much what I know so far. And all right, what I think I know. So I'll submit this and see what the feedback. Thank you for watching. There's going to be I'll do a hand sign. No fireball this time, if I can remember the dragon jutsu. That's that.